Hello guys, welcome back to Custom Gamer. My name is Daz, and this is the show where we talk about level design while playing cool maps. It's been a while, hasn't it? Apologies for the long delay between videos. I've been busy playing games rather than talking about them. I'm going to get back into the saddle now though. So this is Deep Down for Half-Life 2 Episode 2 by James Partridge, aka Azel. If you remember, his last map, Daylight, was one of the first Half-Life 2 maps I actually did commentary on my channel about a year ago. Going back and listening to it now, it's cringeworthy, but just shows I guess I've improved over this time, which is good to see. So a couple of notes before we get started. This mod requires the Steam Pipe beta for Half-Life 2 Episode 2. If you're not sure what that is, essentially you can go into your Steam installation, right-click Properties on Half-Life 2, and under the Betas tab you can select the Steam Pipe beta. Now this is something currently being worked on by Valve, and it changes a lot of the storage formats for the files in Half-Life 2. Basically lots and lots of technical jargon. Essentially it lets mods load faster and lets mods be packaged into these VPK files, which if you play Left 4 Dead 2 mods you're probably familiar with the VPK format. Just lets you double click the mod to install it, and it will install everything in the right place, etc, etc. It's all very nice. Now it is in beta, and unfortunately it breaks compatibility with I think 99% if not 100% of mods which aren't made for it, which is a real shame. Unfortunately this is the only mod currently out which uses the Steam Pipe beta, and it has a good reason for it. It's because Alex's dialogue doesn't work in Half-Life 2 Episode 2 without Steam Pipe beta. It's a current bug in the new version of it. So yeah, a bit of a pain there. It's also probably worth mentioning that you can turn off the Steam Pipe beta and re-download the original Half-Life 2 files if you find that, you know, too much stuff is broken with it and you don't want to put up with it any longer. But I'd say it's definitely worth downloading it to try out this mod, because it's very good. Speaking of the mod, let's talk about it, shall we? So that intro there is quite interesting because you can't actually get out of the room until you pick up the gravity gun. That's very deliberate. The gravity gun is basically required throughout this mod to solve puzzles and get all sorts of goodies, as you can see here.
Hey, Gordon, there you are. Oh, and I see you have the beautiful Alex with you. Well, as you can hear, the Combine are attacking, and they want to get in, but we'll fight to the death. We've got a report that there's an advisor nearby, somewhere in a mine. You gotta get to that mine. Kill the advisor, no more Combine. First, you gotta get out from under this bombardment. Take the car, burst through the lines, kill whoever or whatever stands in your way. Go! Before we're all killed.
I think that's Jim doing the voice acting there. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it's quite hilarious. So yeah, it's just giving us an initial goal there, so we have to escape the Combine ambush. There's a little bit of level design here to back that up, so you've got the explosions knocking stuff off the shelves, which is a nice little touch. Gets players to notice all the pickups here that they can use. And then we get to the random item generator, which was a big hit with fans. Seems not too fond of the game text in the world there. It just feels a little bit kind of odd. I think it would have been nice if an NPC had perhaps mentioned it or something instead. So you can hit the button here, you can get ammo, you can get batteries, and you can get a garden gnome, because why the hell not? Now, me being a bit of a power gamer, the fact that you can get energy cells from this, I didn't really like, because I'm the kind of guy that if I take a bunch of suit damage, I'd end up sitting in front of this item generator just pressing the button for ages until I got back to 100. It could have ended up being really annoying. That's just a character flaw on my part, I suppose. Now another thing, as you notice by the text, is that your car can deactivate Combine force fields when it's near it. I would have really liked this to be explained, have an in-world explanation as well, rather than just a little bit of text on the screen. Again, I feel that's something that NPCs could have done with some more custom dialogue. It just feels kind of like a little bit of an afterthought, I think, just having text there. I think what I would have liked is perhaps a Combine force field actually inside the rebel base that you had to, you could get in the car use it straight away to, you know, remove the force field and then drive through to get to this door here. Just to kind of reinforce to players to make sure they've learnt the mechanic and they understand how it works. As it stands now, you don't really see a combine force field until you've actually beaten this initial encounter. Speaking of initial encounter, it's quite a nice setup here. You've got lots and lots of hit crab canisters coming in, pummeling the area. There's some really nice kind of smoke effects and stuff. Does a really good job of making it feel like this kind of, you know, assault is happening. There is a little bit of a clown car effect with the Combine APC. There were just enemies just keep on pouring out of it just forever until you actually beat this area, which is a little bit of a shame. I also wasn't too much of a fan of having the button you need to press to open the garage doors up on the thing above here, because you don't really see it unless you go up there. I think it would have been perhaps better to have it in the tower by the gate where the grenade box is currently. That would have been quite nice, I think, because you kind of see it as soon as you come out of the door. Let's open this fence here. Get pelted with even more head crab canisters. I did really enjoy this initial area, again just with the head crab canisters coming down constantly. You get this kind of very, very hectic feel. And off we go. Now visually, the mod is kind of hit and miss. It's got some awesome looking areas, like this area in here now is fantastic. And some of the more indoor areas are a lot more kind of mediocre, very, very boxy, not a lot of detail at all. It's strange because the outdoor areas are really, really nice. Like this here, it's basically episode 2 quality, right? And yeah, you can just contrast it with some of the other areas, which just, they're almost like box rooms. Kind of these really kind of janky corridors between them. It's a real shame. This car chase here is really fun. I think the corners here are way too tight though. You basically have to, you know, perform a handbrake turn or just almost stop the car entirely to get around it. It can be a little bit fiddly. There's really not a lot of room to avoid these roller mines either. They can be quite punishing. Now we get to take a breather after all that excitement. I mean, the pacing in terms of combat and puzzle and kind of winding down after a big combat like that is actually quite good. You never really get any combat fatigue. There's always a short puzzle or, you know, other segment to kind of break up the combat really, really well. And puzzles themselves are never really a big focus of the mod. It's just kind of used as a break between combat. You know, it's not trying to pretend to be Portal or anything. Most of them are fairly well designed, fairly easy to work out. So first one here. It's funny actually reading the comments, there were a couple of people that really got stuck here, they weren't quite sure what to do. It's one of those puzzles where as soon as you notice the solution you just kind of, you know, slap yourself on the forehead like, oh! So you've got this bright yellow box here, like, look at me, I'm important. You can actually see the explosive barrels inside. Give it a shot, there you go. So yeah, I think perhaps if the yellow container wasn't covering a lot of the explosive barrels, perhaps that could have helped a little. But as it stands, I didn't really have a problem with this puzzle at all. It's interesting that some people got really stuck there. Hey ho, that's just how these things go, I suppose. I like that there's lots of little side areas like this where you can grab supplies. It's not quite done to death like it was in Station 51, where there's just, you know, pickup boxes absolutely everywhere, like practically just throwing them at you all the time. In this mod you do have to work a little bit to find most of them. I think it does a really good job of keeping the exploration rewards interesting, rather than just, I walked forwards and looked around a corner, well hey, I get a reward. Now I think this area in here, the entire kind of area, is probably one of my favourite parts of the mod. Does a really good job of just building one giant area and having lots and lots of different gameplay pockets within it that kind of, mesh together. You end up taking different routes into different areas, and you keep kind of re-emerging into this big vista from different angles. Does a really, really good job of it. And this is something that I think Jim and Philip were talking about on the podcast they did together about this mod. Jim was saying that when you're making this big mod with kind of a car in it, you have to create a lot of geometry for kind of travelling around. And it gets really, really inefficient after a while, because literally the player takes 10 seconds to drive down a road that you could spend 2 weeks building. So it actually starts to make a lot of sense to create these very, very interconnected areas that you get a lot of gameplay out of.
Watch out.
And it's just really, really incredibly efficient. Something that I find a lot of newer modders do, this is going back to the Quake days, when Quake modding was really huge, is that a lot of new mappers would just kind of have this room corridor room mentality. And they'd build a room, have some enemies in it, or a button or something, and then have a corridor connecting to another room, and etc, etc. Essentially, the whole corridor shooter cliche thing. And what's happening in level design these days is that you're generally getting a lot more bigger areas, which don't look like corridors, but kind of have these, I suppose you could call them hidden corridors within them, that just kind of direct the player around this large area, so you never really feel like you're moving from room, corridor, room. You hide it with the level design. And I think this area here is a great example of that, where you never really feel like you're enclosed, and you always feel like you have lots of options to move around, but there is a kind of very linear progression through this area. You have the crane up there as this giant centerpiece of it, which is nice, gets the player's attention nice and early. Another nice thing here is that you can't just walk directly into the car park here, the gates are shut. This is fantastic because it forces the player around this APC here, and it gets them to notice this force field straight away. And of course the player's already been told, you need the car here to lower the force field. So that's what this whole piece of level design is teaching you, to notice the force field, and then the players realise, okay, I obviously need to get the car up here, how am I going to do that? Then they notice the crane in the distance there, and the puzzle completes, and now they know what they have to do. Just a case of, okay, how do I get to the crane? And then how do I get the car up here using the crane? So this area sets itself up very, very nicely. And of course you get a bit of incidental dialogue from Alex saying, get the car, Gordon, just in case anyone hasn't worked it out yet.
I'll keep a lookout while you poke around inside.
Yeah, Jim's done a really good job of using Alex's lines in kind of new and inventive ways. It's one of the best things about this mod actually, is just when you've got Alex walking around with you, she never really gets in the way. She, for the most part, works correctly. There's been a couple of niggles here and there. I know there's been a lot of patches released for this mod. This is version 1.3, which I grabbed from Planet Philip. Who knows, there may be another bug fix patch out at some point, I don't know. But I know there have been a few bugs with Alex. I believe they've all been taken care of now. This version, I didn't really have any problems. It's funny because I played this mod so many times in beta, and yet when I go to record my video playthrough I just play it like a complete idiot. I get hit by all these different mines, explosives. I'm just completely and totally jinxed when I try and record videos. It's hilarious. I always end up taking a lot of damage in this room. It's quite hard to hit the Combine with all these kind of things in the way. But it's quite an enjoyable fight nonetheless. Luckily there's plenty of health pickups afterwards. Yep, that happened. What looks like happened is the sentry gun shot one of those pots off the top of the worktop. Went straight into my camera, and then of course when I shot the SMG grenade it detonated instantly. So yeah, let's try that again. I wanted to leave that footage in there because it just shows that the autosaves have been thought of, and they're very good in this mod. One of my pet peeves, as you all know by now, is just shitty autosaves, but no, they're actually very good in this mod, thank god. I love those barrels with the hopper mines on, that's a great idea. I don't think I've seen that before anywhere else, maybe I have. Not sure. So now we emerge back to the outside through here. Again, this is what I love about this area, it's just you keep revisiting it from different angles. Again, it's just a very, very efficient use of a level designer's time when you can keep reusing a space like this. Have it be different each time. And again, through opening the front doors there, you've unlocked a fast route back if you know, fall off the building or something. That's something I really, really enjoy as well, just constantly opening up new routes through a level. Through the same area in the level, sorry. After you've got to certain points. Just stops a lot of unnecessary backtracking.
There you are. I thought you might have forgotten about me.
Bit of a rooftop fight here. Was quite fun. There's a section coming up in a minute which I'm not too sure about whether Jim got around to fixing or not, but there's you can actually follow the roof around here without jumping over this broken fence to the end here, and in the beta version you are able to kind of jump down behind this fence, cutting off the level at the bottom there by the Combine force field. You can actually get essentially like behind the scenery and kind of get stuck there. I don't know, I didn't actually jump down there to test if he'd fixed it or not, but yeah, it's always something to be careful about. If the player can get up high near the boundaries of your map, you always want to test if they can actually jump over and get stuck behind the geometry. It can be really, really quite an annoying issue. This area is quite fun because you see the Combine Metro cops down there, and then when you look down you see all the hopper mines on the floor here. It just kind of clicks like, use the hopper mines to explode them. Yes. Perhaps there are a few too many here. It can get a bit tiresome to move them all after a while. Here's another good example of opening up a shortcut route, so you can open the door here, which unlocks it. So we've got a quick route back up if we fall down. Now we can get to the crane. Like so. It's kind of obvious what the player has to do now in the crane. I mean, we used it to move a buggy in Half-Life 2. It's essentially exactly the same mechanic here, so it's very, very familiar. Unfortunately, there is a bit of weirdness with the crane and the lift the player can use behind it there. If you actually rotate the crane around, the back of it goes into the lift. It looks a bit dodgy. And I hit the wrong button. Whoops. Let's try again, shall we? It can be a little bit tricky here to judge distance, because depending on where you park the car, it's very hard to see the shadow of the magnet. Just about get it right here. If you're a perceptive player, you may have noticed the other random item generator behind the white fence there. You can get there by kind of rearranging the containers that you can pick up and move around. Now, I was attempting to drop this car on the combine here, but just epic fail, so yeah. So you can see here when I go to get in the lift, go back down there, you can see the back of the crane just goes into it, unfortunately. Bit of an oversight there, but you know, luckily it doesn't stop you from using the lift or anything, so it's just a kind of visual anomaly. Alright, now we can get out of here. Like, excellent parking. Alright, so that just about brings us to the end of part 1. I'll hopefully release follow-up parts very, very quickly. Won't have to wait 1.5 weeks for part 2. Alright, see you next time, guys.